Part 1. The beginning of doubt. Seattle has always felt like a city caught between two worlds, the shimmering glass towers of downtown and the damp, moss-covered neighborhoods where rain never really leaves. I loved that about it, the contrast. For years, I thought my life reflected that same duality, the stress of my job at a financial firm downtown, and the comfort of coming home to Emily, my wife of 6 years. But lately, something had shifted. It was subtle at first. The way she lingered with her phone, thumb scrolling, lips curling into faint smiles I wasn't part of. The way her hugs had grown shorter, perfunctory, as if she were ticking off a box on her daily list. One night, I came home late from work. The rain clung to my coat like a second skin, dripping onto the hardwood as I kicked off my shoes. She was in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, laughing softly. I asked who she was talking to. She said, "Just my sister," but the way her eyes darted down, the hesitation, the faint pink on her cheeks, it gnawed at me. That was the first spark of doubt. And in a city like Seattle, where gray clouds seem to hang lower than anywhere else, that spark quickly grew into a storm. Part 2. Routine, shattered. I started watching her in the little things. How she lingered in the shower longer than usual, phone perched on the bathroom counter. How she dressed up more often, even for mundane errands. Emily had always been effortlessly beautiful, with her long chestnut hair and that quiet confidence that made strangers glance twice. But now there was something performative about it, like she was preparing for someone else's gaze. We used to cook together on weekends, our small Capitol Hill apartment filling with the smell of garlic and rosemary. Lately, she'd suggest takeout. "I'm just too tired," she'd say, retreating to the bedroom with her phone. At work, I tried to bury myself in numbers and client meetings, but my mind kept drifting back. Was I paranoid? Or was something truly unraveling? The city outside seemed to echo my mood, drizzles that turned into heavy showers, streets slick with reflections of neon. Even the Pike Place Market, usually buzzing with chatter, felt muted the last time we walked through together. She was on her phone half the time, laughing at something I couldn't hear. Part 3. The first clue. One evening, while Emily was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I respected her privacy. But suspicion is like a sickness, it weakens your resolve. The message was short: "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." The sender was saved as Claire. Emily doesn't have a friend named Claire. My hands shook. I placed the phone back as the water stopped running, retreating to the kitchen before she emerged. When she came out in her robe, towel pressed to her hair, she looked at me with that same easy smile I once trusted completely. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied, my throat tight. That night, lying beside her, listening to her steady breathing, I stared at the ceiling, counting the tiny cracks in the plaster. A part of me wanted to confront her immediately. Another part wanted proof, undeniable, crushing proof. Part 4. Conversations in the rain. Seattle rain has a way of isolating people, pushing them into cafes and bookstores, corners where secrets can bloom. One afternoon, I left work early and followed Emily under the pretense of running errands. She said she was meeting her sister at a coffee shop in Ballard. From across the street, I saw her enter. A man was already there, tall, wearing a navy pea coat. She leaned in to hug him. Their embrace lingered too long. I sat in my car, windshield wipers beating like a metronome, my chest hollow. They laughed together, heads tilted close, oblivious to the world outside. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. Body language said everything. When Emily came home that night, she smelled faintly of a cologne that wasn't mine. She kissed me softly on the cheek, and guilt clung to her lips like the rain still dripping from her hair. Part 5. Fractures at home. We fought more often. Small things became landmines. "Why are you always working late?" she accused one night, deflecting suspicion onto me. I could ask you the same, I shot back, bitterness sharpening my voice. Our apartment, once warm with laughter, grew cold. She spent more evenings out with friends. I stayed up late, scrolling through bank statements, noticing unaccounted dinners and Lyft rides to neighborhoods she had no reason to visit. Sometimes, I caught myself staring at her while she brushed her teeth, wondering who she really was. The woman I married? Or the stranger I was slowly uncovering? Part 6. The breaking point. The truth came like a storm breaking over the sound. One Saturday, Emily said she was meeting her sister again. I followed, this time determined. She drove to a hotel near Lake Union. My heart pounded as I watched her step out of the car, adjusting her coat, glancing around nervously. Minutes later, the man from the cafe arrived. They went inside together. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, every fiber of me screaming, but I couldn't move. The rain streaked down my windshield, blurring the hotel's neon sign. My marriage, my trust, my life, it all dissolved in that downpour. Part 7. The confrontation. That night, when she walked through the door, cheeks flushed, I was waiting. Where were you? I asked, voice low. With Claire, she replied, too quickly. Claire doesn't exist, I said, throwing her phone on the table. The message thread was open. Her face went pale. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. Sorry. As if that word could patch the crater between us. Who is he? My voice trembled. She didn't answer. Tears welled in her eyes, but they felt hollow, rehearsed. Part 8. Shattered glass. The days that followed blurred. She moved to the couch, claiming space. I avoided her eyes, avoiding the tidal wave of memories that crashed every time I looked at her. Friends noticed the strain. At work, I made mistakes I never used to. Nights were the worst, lying awake, listening to the hum of the city outside, wondering how long it had been happening. Was I a fool all along? Or did she choose this only recently? Part 9. Decisions. I had a choice, swallow the betrayal and pretend, or cut ties and walk away from the woman I thought was my forever. Seattle's autumn winds carried the smell of wet leaves, of endings. One evening, I packed a suitcase. Emily watched silently, tears streaming. You don't have to go, she whispered. But I did. For myself. For the man I had been before suspicion consumed me. Part 10. Beneath the Seattle rain. I left the apartment and stepped into the night. The rain was relentless, each drop cold against my skin, but somehow cleansing. Behind me, the life I built crumbled. Ahead, only uncertainty. Yet for the first time in months, I felt free. Seattle stretched out before me, neon lights reflecting on wet pavement, the city alive and indifferent to my pain. My heart ached, but it also beat with new resolve. Betrayal had scarred me, yes. But it had also stripped me bare, forcing me to face who I was, and who I needed to become. And so, beneath the endless Seattle rain, I walked forward. Alone.